Two nuns are walking down the street when they notice that a man is following them. Sister Rachel, the older and wiser nun, says to the young and naive Sister Mary, "See that crossroad ahead? You go left, and I'll go right. He can't follow us both. We'll meet back at the abbey." So the sisters part, and the man follows Sister Rachel. Some time later, Sister Mary is anxiously waiting at the abbey when Sister Rachel returns alone. "Thank the Lord you are all right," exclaims Sister Mary. "But what happened to the man?" "Well," replies Sister Rachel, "after a few minutes, I stopped and pulled up my dress." Sister Mary stares in shock. "Then," continues Sister Rachel, "he stopped and pulled down his trousers." Sister Mary gasps, "Oh, sister, why would you let him do that?" "Because," explains Sister Rachel, "a nun with her dress up can run faster than a man with his trousers down." Two guys were sitting in a bar. One of the guys said to the other, "Did you hear about Jim?" His wife said that he was in a terrible accident. He had several broken bones, internal injuries, and he was in a lot of pain. The other man said, "No, I hadn't heard anything." Another man, sitting next to them at the bar, overheard their conversation and said about the news, "That's nothing compared to what happened to me. I've had pain worse than that 2 times in my life." The first man asked, "Oh yeah, when was the first time?" The man said, "The first time was when some buddies and I were out hunting. I had to take a dump. I went behind a tree, dropped my pants, and squatted down, but I didn't see that bear trap that was set there. The trap sprang and clamped around my testicles." Both of the other men said, "Ow! That was the first time. When was the second time?" The man said, "When I reached the end of that chain." Two men were on a train. One guy had 3 little boys who were running all over the train, causing all kinds of trouble. The other guy looked at him and said, "Is that your boy running all over the train?" The second guy said, "Yeah," and he caught one of the little boys and started spanking him. The other guy said, "Hey, you'd better stop beating that boy, otherwise you're gonna have some hard luck." The man looked at him in surprise and said, "Hard luck? I'm gonna have hard luck? My sister is in the baggage car dead. We don't know where we're gonna take her. I got her 3 kids and you think I'm gonna have hard luck?" Pointing at the kid he was spanking, he said, "You see this little SOB here? He's been running all over the train raising hell and you think I'm gonna have hard luck. This little bastard tore up the tickets and I'm on the wrong train. My barn just burned down with everything in it and you tell me I'm gonna have hard luck?" The day before yesterday, my wife and I were coming on this train. We were crawling across the desert. We were so hungry and didn't have anything to eat. We only had just a little bit of flour in a can, and we stopped and thought we'd make some biscuits. But we didn't have any water to put in the flour. I told her, "Baby, you might as well pee on it and we can make a dough." She sat down to pee on it, and instead of peeing, she farted and blew all the flour away. There are 2 9-story buildings neighboring each other. One neighbor yells to the other neighbor of the opposite building, "Hey Michael, when is your birthday?" "May, why do you ask Alex?" the second neighbor asks in return. "Because I know exactly what a gift for you." "Okay, and what will it be?" "Since we can see everything every time your wife blows you, I'll be more than happy to provide you with window curtains." "Fine, and when is your birthday?" The second neighbor asks the other neighbor's first question. "July, why do you ask Michael?" "It seems to me that I found a perfect gift for you as well." "And what will it be?" "Binoculars, of course. That way you would finally be able to recognize whose wife that woman is." Two elderly, excited Southern women were sitting together in the front pew of a church listening to a fiery preacher. When this preacher condemned the sin of stealing, these 2 ladies cried out at the tops of their lungs, "Amen, brother." When the preacher condemned the sin of lust, they yelled again, "Preach it, Reverend." And when the preacher condemned the sin of lying, they jumped to their feet and screamed, "Right on, brother! Tell it like it is! Amen!" But when the preacher condemned the sin of gossip, the 2 got very quiet. One turned to the other and said, "He's quit preaching and now he's meddling." Two friends lived in a communist country. The first friend asked, "Comrade, if you had 2 houses, would you give one of them to me?" The second friend replied, "Of course." The first friend was happy with this answer. He then asked, "If you had 2 cars, would you give one of them to me?" "Of course," replied the second friend. Overjoyed, the first friend then asked, "If you had 2 chickens, would you give one of them to me?" "No, comrade," the second friend said. Surprised and distraught, the first friend asked, "Why not?" The first friend replied, "I actually have 2 chickens." Three men, a doctor, a lawyer, and the town drunk each had a son on the local high school football team. The biggest game of the year was being played. In the first quarter, the doctor's son took the opening kickoff 97 yards for a touchdown. The doctor jumped up in the stands and yelled, "That's my boy! I raised him on carnation milk! Isn't he great?" In the second quarter, the lawyer's son intercepted a pass and ran it back 60 yards for a touchdown. The lawyer stood up and said, "That's my boy! I raised him on pet milk! Isn't he fantastic?" In the fourth quarter, the coach put in the third-string team. The town drunk's son was on the third-string team. He got in the game and promptly fumbled the ball and lost 25 yards. Both teams' players piled on top of him, trying to recover the ball. The town drunk stood up and slurred, "That's my boy! I raised him on milk of magnesia. Ain't he the shit?" 2 accountants were in a bank when a gang of armed robbers burst in. While some of the robbers snatched bundles of cash from the tellers, others lined the customers up against the wall and relieved them of their wallets, watches, and other valuables. As the robbers moved down the line, one accountant pressed something into the hand of the other accountant. "What's this?" said the second accountant without looking down. His colleague replied, "It's that $100 I owe you." 2 fat girls bought some new stretch pants. These pants were so tight, they looked like they were spray painted on. The stretch pants even had stirrups under their feet that pulled the pants down even tighter on the girls. They were so proud of these pants, they wore them and waddled all over town, thinking they were looking so good. The next day, one of the girls called the other one and said, "I just love my new stretch pants. Do you love your new stretch pants?" The other girl said, "Well, they're all right." The first girl says, "What do you mean they're all right? Don't you just love them?" The girl said, "Yeah, I love them, but every time I fart, I blow off my tennis shoes." Three old couples were having tea one fine day. They were all chatting and whatnot when one of the men, trying to get a chuckle, said to his wife, "Pass the honey, honey." Getting the chuckle he expected, he carried on. A moment later, the second man said, "Pass the sugar, sugar." This got a bit of a bigger laugh, so the third man, although not quite as clever or quick-witted as the other two, decided to join in the fun. He waited for the perfect opportunity, cleared his throat, and then confidently said, "Pass the tea bag."